She left work smiling just minutes from home. But somewhere on that quiet road, Amy Lynn vanished without a trace. Her purse, her phone, even her car keys were left behind. What happened that night would haunt her family, terrify a small town, and uncover the darkness of a man hiding in plain sight. On October 24, 1998, 22-year-old Amy Lynn finished her late shift at Mel's Diner. She was known around Lancaster, Ohio, as a kind young woman with big dreams. Nursing school was just around the corner, and every extra hour she worked was a step closer to her goal. That night was like any other. Amy laughed with co-workers, hung up her apron, and waved goodbye. At around 11:45 p.m., she climbed into her car and began the short 15-minute drive home. The road was quiet, lined with empty fields and thick woods. But sometime during that drive, Amy disappeared. By morning, her roommate grew alarmed when Amy hadn't come home. Calls to her phone went unanswered. Finally, police were called. Within hours, officers found Amy's car on the side of County Road 14. The car was locked, her purse still inside along with her phone and wallet. The keys sat in the ignition. There was no blood, no shattered glass, no signs of a struggle. It was as if Amy had vanished in the thin stretch of darkness between the diner and her home. News spread quickly. For her parents, it was a nightmare. Amy had never disappeared before, never gone silent. She was close to her family, dependable to a fault. Something was terribly wrong. That evening, the search began. Police, volunteers, and neighbors scoured the fields with flashlights. Dogs were brought in. Helicopters circled overhead. But after hours of desperate searching, not a single trace of Amy was found. For Lancaster, a town of only a few thousand, the disappearance was unthinkable. The night ended with no answers, only fear. By the next day, Amy's face was everywhere. Posters were stapled to streetlights, gas stations, grocery stores. Her photo, dark hair, bright smile, stared back at every passerby. The community came together. Churches opened their doors for vigils. Neighbors formed search groups. At one gathering, Amy's mother stood trembling before the crowd. "She's out there. Please help us bring her home." But while the town pulled closer, detectives were left chasing shadows. Amy had no known enemies. She wasn't in debt, wasn't involved in drugs. Her co-workers and friends described her as sweet, responsible, happy. So if Amy hadn't run away, what had happened? Rumors began to swirl. Some insisted a stranger was hunting women in the area. Others claimed to have seen a dark, colored truck idling near the diner on the night Amy disappeared. Detectives looked into every lead, but none gave answers. Parents grew terrified. They wouldn't let their daughters walk alone. People who had never locked their doors before now double, checked them each night. Lancaster, once a sleepy town, was now living under a cloud of dread. Police doubled their efforts. They canvassed highways, checked surveillance cameras at nearby gas stations, interviewed every customer from the diner that night. Still, Amy's trail ended at the roadside where her car was found. The silence only deepened the panic. Everyone had the same chilling thought. If it happened to Amy, it could happen to anyone. 3 weeks later, hope was nearly gone, until hunters stumbled upon something in the forest 5 miles from where Amy's car had been found. At first, it looked like a rag tangled in leaves, but when they picked it up, they froze. It was part of a blue uniform shirt. Faded dirty, but still attached was a name tag, Amy. Police rushed to the site. Forensic teams combed the ground, collecting evidence. The fabric carried a strong chemical odor. Lab tests later confirmed it, chloroform. Whoever had taken Amy had drugged her. Nearby investigators discovered boot prints. Large, heavy, the kind made by industrial work boots. But just yards away, the tracks disappeared, erased by deep tire marks in the soil. Amy hadn't just vanished. She'd been carried into a waiting vehicle. The discovery broke her parents' hearts. At a press conference, her mother clutched the fabric in tears. This was hers. My baby wore this. The reality was undeniable. Amy hadn't run away. She had been abducted. The FBI joined the case, linking it to other disappearances across Ohio. 3 young women, all brunettes, all Amy's age. had gone missing in nearby counties in the past 2 years. The similarities were chilling. Theories spread fast. Locals swore they had seen a strange man hanging around the diner weeks before. Others reported spotting a dark truck parked deep in the woods late at night. But when followed up, the leads went nowhere. For detectives, the clues pointed to someone careful, calculated. A predator who had planned every step. And for the town, it was confirmation of their darkest fears. Lancaster wasn't dealing with chance. They were dealing with a hunter. By early 1999, the case seemed doomed until an anonymous caller whispered a name: Dennis Cooper. Cooper was a 46-year-old long-haul truck driver. Neighbors described him as odd, secretive. Years earlier, 2 women had accused him of harassment, though charges never stuck. Co-workers recalled his disturbing jokes about women, including one chilling remark: "I know places nobody would ever find you." Police dug deeper. His trucking routes often passed through the road Amy took home. Witnesses had described a dark truck near the diner the night she disappeared. It all fit too well. A search warrant of his property revealed disturbing evidence: duct tape, rope, industrial chemicals, maps with remote backroads circled in red, and a pair of heavy work boots. When compared to the plaster casts from the woods, the tread matched. To detectives, it was enough. Dennis was brought in for questioning, but in the interrogation room, he remained calm, almost smug. When shown the evidence, he shrugged. "I'm a truck driver. Rope, tape, maps, those are tools of my trade. You think I'm the only man with boots?" Detectives pressed harder, but Dennis never broke. Without a confession and without Amy's body, the evidence was circumstantial. Reluctantly, the police had to let him go. The decision enraged Lancaster. People whispered angrily in church pews, shouted in grocery stores. Amy's parents were devastated. "He did this," her mother cried, "and he's walking free." For months, the town lived in fear. They believed they knew the man responsible. But the law had failed them. And the terrifying thought spread like wildfire: if Dennis Cooper wasn't stopped, would Amy be his only victim? 2 long years dragged by after Amy's disappearance. For her parents, every day was torment, living in a limbo between hope and despair. They clung to vigils, put up posters that had begun to fade in the sun, and begged police to keep searching. But without new leads, the case felt dead. Then, in October of 2000, a break finally came. A hiker exploring a wooded creek bed, just 7 miles from where Amy's car had been abandoned, stumbled upon something strange protruding from the soil. At first, he thought it was animal bones. But nearby, tangled in the dirt, was a strip of blue fabric and a small silver ring. The hiker called authorities immediately. When forensic teams arrived, their worst fears were confirmed. The remains belonged to Amy Lynn. After 2 years of haunting uncertainty, the truth had been unearthed. Amy had not run away. She had been buried in a shallow grave, hidden in plain sight. The discovery reignited the case. Investigators noticed something chilling. The grave site matched a spot circled on one of the maps seized from Dennis Cooper's garage. Even more damning, boot impressions in the soil were consistent with the plaster casts taken from the earlier search near the woods. And Dennis's trucking logs revealed he had been in Lancaster the night Amy vanished. It was enough to act. In early 2001, Dennis Cooper was arrested and charged with kidnapping and murder. The trial that followed became the most closely watched event in Lancaster's history. The courthouse was packed with reporters, neighbors, and Amy's grieving family. Prosecutors laid out the evidence step by step. The chloroform residue on Amy's uniform, the rope and duct tape in Dennis's garage, the boots that matched the tracks, the maps with secluded locations circled. And finally, the grave where Amy had been found. The defense fought hard, arguing that there was no direct evidence. No fingerprints, no eyewitness, no confession. They claimed the items in Dennis's garage were ordinary tools of a trucker, and that the state was desperate to pin the crime on someone. But the jury wasn't swayed. After days of testimony and tense deliberation, the verdict was read aloud: guilty of first-degree murder. Amy's mother sobbed as the courtroom erupted in relief. Dennis Cooper was sentenced to life in prison without parole. For Lancaster, justice had been served, but the wound remained. Even behind bars, Dennis never confessed. He never explained why Amy was targeted, never admitted if there were other victims. Some investigators believe Amy was not his first, nor his last. His long-haul trucking routes lined up with unsolved disappearances in other states. But those answers may never come. For Amy's family, the trial provided closure, but not peace. Their daughter was gone forever, stolen by a predator who lived among them in silence. And for Lancaster, Amy's story became legend, a permanent reminder that darkness can hide in the most ordinary of places, and that sometimes evil wears a familiar face. Amy Lynn's smile, her dreams, her future, stolen by a predator hiding in plain sight. Her family finally got justice, but peace will forever remain out of reach. Her story is a reminder sometimes the greatest dangers are not in the shadows, but right beside us,